Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday 2 o'clock webinar. My name is Chad, and I will be your host as we discuss schedules today in Envisioneer. So before we get started, just want to go over how the webinar works here. So what I will be doing is giving a formal presentation all about schedules today. After that presentation, I will open up the GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side. There's a question section there, and I invite you to type in any questions that you might have regarding schedules and the schedules webinar, whether it's during the webinar, during the presentation, or after the webinar. Feel free to type in any questions that you've got. Also, after the webinar today, I will be sending out an email. Included in that email will be a booklet, a PDF file that you can check out on your own time and go through some of the examples on your own when you get a chance. So let's go ahead and get started. So what we've got here today is just a simple little house that I've drawn here, a couple of rooms. I've got some doors and windows inserted into the house here. So what we're going to cover today in the schedules webinar is we're going to insert a door schedule, a window schedule, a member schedule, and a room finish schedule, or a room region schedule. So we've got all of those items inserted here, and we'll go through the different settings that have to do with schedules and how we can insert those and use a schedule as part of our design, part of our working drawings. So in this house, I'm going to start off with the door schedule. To get into our schedules, we're going to go up to Tools, Analyze. The bottom of the Analyze flyout here, we've got schedules, and you can see all of the different options there. I've got 4 schedules: the door schedule, window schedule, member schedule, and room region schedule. So like I said, we're going to start off with the door schedule. I'm going to left click on door schedule here, and we can see the schedule that comes up. So in our schedule dialog box here, this is essentially how our schedule would look. So when we insert a schedule, what we're going to do is actually assign numbers or tag numbers or letters to a door or a window or a member, and allow that number to reference a number in our schedule. The schedule is going to be a chart that's off to the side of our diagram. Just an alternate way to using tags and marks or labels directly on your doors or windows. So first off, with the schedule, we've got the ability to do a lot of customization with the schedule itself. The first thing that we can customize is the schedule title. So when the schedule is placed on your drawing, what do you want the title to be? In this case, we've just got it simply as door schedule, but you may have your own name that you give your schedule, and you're able to type that in here and customize that name if you wish. The next option is the different column headings that we've got. So we can see here we've got mark, description, size, count, and notes. So the mark is going to be the mark that actually goes on to the window or the door. If I just move this dialog out of the way here for a second, we can see we've got a sliding door here. Number 2 is the 5-foot glass sliding door. What the mark is going to be is a little mark. This door will be 2, and in this case it's going to be put in there with a circle. So that's what the mark is referring to, is this number inside of the mark or the label here that attaches to the door. The description. So the description comes from the actual element itself that gets inserted. So when we inserted this 5-foot patio door, the patio door that we selected from our catalog was a 5-foot sliding glass door. So the description in our description column comes from the actual description of the element that we choose. The size, next column we've got here is the size. Obviously that's calling out the actual size that is in the properties of the door as well. So if we were to look at the properties of that patio door, the width of the door would be 5 feet. The height of the door would be 6'8". So that's just populating that size directly from our properties dialog from the element itself. Count. Count is simply the quantity or the number that are inserted. So if we had multiple interior doors that were all the same size, you might get a count of 3 or 4 depending on how many were actually inserted in the drawing. In this case, the 4 doors that we've got inserted are all different doors Each of them only has a count or quantity of 1. And then lastly, we've got the notes column. So if I wanted to add in any notes about any of these doors, I've got the ability to type that in here and apply that note to these doors as well. Door schedules, window schedules, these schedules are, like I said, customizable. Any of these headings can be customized, and the information that gets included or populated into the cells here can also be customized as well, and we'll get into that shortly. That's going to be using the setup button here, and we're going to go in and set up how our schedules are going to look. Next thing I want to point out is the building location. So each schedule gets inserted based on its building location. In this case, we're on the ground floor. That's where we drew this building. So any schedule we insert here will be for the ground floor items only. And another option here that we've got, tag elements with schedule marks. So this mark here that I've drawn that will go in automatically when we insert our schedule, do we even want to include it on the floor plan? Do we want to call out all the numbers, or do we just want a simple chart or a schedule to be off by itself, and we'll include it by itself with no reference to an actual floor plan? You do have that option that you could uncheck the elements or not include the mark. Before we go into the setup, I want to talk about the print option. So we do have this little print button up here. If your schedule, if you wanted to print it to its own little page, you want to have your door schedule printed to be handed out, whether it's to a supplier, to the homeowner for approvals, whatever the case may be. If you just simply want to give somebody a schedule, you've got the ability to print that out and have it completely separate. So that's what that print option will do, allow you to go in and choose all your regular print options, paper size, orientation, all that kind of stuff. So next, to customize the door schedule, what columns get included, what information gets included, the size, how the schedule looks. To do that, we're going to go into the setup of the schedule. So if I click on the setup button here, it brings me into the schedule setup. So within the schedule setup, you can see all of the different items that are included here. Again, we've got the schedule title, so you've got the ability if you want. Originally, we saw it here in the door schedule. We've also got the ability to change it here in the schedule setup and give it its own name as well if we wish. Next option here, we've got the layout. So we can see back in our door schedule, we saw that we had mark, we had description, size, count, and notes as our headings. In the layout tab here, we've got the option to customize the heading labels. We've got the ability to customize the actual order of our columns and what columns actually get included as well. So when it comes to the layout, you can see across the top here all of the different headings that we've got available. So we've got mark, description, size, count, and notes. As I click on each one, you can see the contents here and the settings actually change and update as well. So we've got the heading here called out as mark. This is just simply a typed in text. So I can call this out whatever I want. If I wanted to call it tag instead of mark, I could do that. Also got the ability to put a specific content in there. So we can auto-populate this information. And in this case, we're using AutoMark. It's going to automatically create its own mark. But you can see all of the different items that we've got here. Catalog mark, so if it's got a mark in the catalog, you can actually apply that catalog setting to it. Part number if you wanted to, price, type, all these different options you could set rather than it being auto mark. You could specify what you actually wanted to populate in the tag or mark column. Another option we've got is the width. So this width, the 1 inch, is the actual width that would appear when you insert it into a worksheet and print it off. The width of that column is going to be 1 inch. So we can specify and customize the width of all of our different columns as well. You can see as I move on to the next one, description. Again, I've got the ability to edit the heading and what I actually want to call this column out as. My content, Again, I've got all of these different options that I can use for the content, what's being included. Description, again, is pulling from the actual element and the description that the element is being called out as. Width, you can see here, this column is set up to be 2 inches. If we look at size, 2.5 inch. Content is width times height. We got different size options. We could do separate columns, one separate for height, one separated with width. We can do height by width or width by height. So depending on which information you want first, you can specify different size variables there as well. Again, it's going to pull those that information from the actual door, the catalog element that gets inserted. Count, so simply the content is the count, so the number of different doors that get inserted, the number of different times. I've also got the note section here. We can see it's a nice wide column, 8 inches wide. If we want, we can specify that we only want that to be 6 inches. The content in this case is blank. We're going to have the ability to fill in whatever information we want. But again, just like everything else, we can take it and have it auto-populate with specific information. The other thing we've got here is insert and remove. So if there was specific columns here that you didn't want, we could simply click on it and click the remove button and take that column right out of the schedule if we want. Insert, if we use the insert, obviously that's going to insert a new column, and it's going to insert to the left of the one that is highlighted or selected. So in this case, I've got notes selected. If I click insert, it's going to create the new column to the left of the notes column. So you can see here now we've got a new blank column, and we've got our notes column. So if I want to call this out, maybe I'm going to create a column called supplier. Give my heading whatever name I want, and then I can come into the content and I can choose that supplier variable. So any of these doors that have a supplier attached to them in the quantity tab of the object will auto-populate that information from that cell. So that's how we can take and customize the actual layout of our schedule and all of the columns that we see and all of the headings that we see. The mark elements themselves, so we've got the ability now to change the marks. You can see the different mark styles. So when I drew that one on the patio door, I drew it as a circle, and the reason I drew a circle is because the doors by default are called out inside a circle. But if I drop this down, we can see the different options there. We've got square, we've got hexagon, we've got octagon, or we've got text only that won't have an outline or a border to it at all. It'll just simply be the mark number. Then once we've got a style selected, the text style, we've got the ability to change that. So right now we've got it set to labels, but if you've got a specific font that you want to use, bold, italics, whatever text style you want to use, you can set up for your schedules and use that specific text style. The insertion point offset is going to be where that mark actually inserts in relation to the door or window that's inserted. So if I draw, here we've got our wall and we've got our door. So we're going to have a mark outside the door here, and with this being called out at 10 inches, that's essentially saying that my mark will be 10 inches away from the wall or from the door insertion point. So if our door mark is 1 and it had a circle, that is what this insertion point offset is going to refer to. We've also got the ability to change the color and line type and line weight of the mark. So the circle or the octagon, the square, whatever is around your mark, you can give that a specific color. You can give it a specific line type, so if you want it to be continuous, or you can choose your dash, dash dot, whatever line type you wish, you can choose there too. And line weight, you can make it nice and light so that it's a nice light line weight, or if you wanted to make it really bold, show off that your mark is there, you could make it a heavy line weight. Totally up to you how you have that show up. So that's the layout and the mark elements. The last thing we can do is the actual schedule and what it looks like when it inserts onto the sheet. So the appearance of the schedule, you can see here we've got the different headings. We've got the title. So the door schedule title would go at the top. Then we've got each of the column headings, and then we've got each of the cells below that from the auto-populated information from the doors that get inserted. So for the title, like I said, we can choose our font or our text style that we use. In this case, we're using titles for our title, and the title is referring up to the actual schedule title that we've given. Our headings are next, so that's our column headings, so that's referring to these headings here. Again, we can choose a separate text style, whatever we want for those headings. And then the content is going to be the information that gets populated from each of these cells. That's going to be the content. Comes into the columns here. We can pick and choose a separate text style for that as well. Then we got justification, so we can set it to be left, center, or right justified inside that cell or inside the column. You've got the ability to adjust that here as well with the justification buttons. Then we've also got the ability to change the border and the line weights and line types of the border, as well as the division lines. So the border is going to be the very outside border. You can take and choose what color you want that to be, the line type style, continuous dash, dash dot, and the line weight. So if you wanted a nice heavy line weight for your border, you could set your line weight to be heavy for the border. And the division, maybe I'll come in and make it a light line weight so that the division lines are a little bit lighter and just my border is nice and heavy and bold. So these are all the different options that we can take and specify and set up for our schedule and how the schedule will look. Once you've got everything set up, we can click OK. And now we can see that our schedule updates. So I've got, instead of mark column, it's now a tag column. I've got my different settings here. I've got my size. I've got my count. I now have my supplier column. You can see the different suppliers of each of these doors. And I've got my notes column still as well. Now each of these cells here can also be edited at this point. So it will auto-populate this information, but you've also got the ability here to take and actually change this information. So if I double-click into my 5-foot sliding glass door, and maybe instead I want to call it 5-foot patio door, I can take and edit that information right here. Same thing with notes. Supplier, again, supplier will pull from the information that's provided within the door. But if I wanted to change this information and get both of these doors from Door Palace, I can take and change that information manually. Notes, I can type in notes as well. Again, double-clicking into that space and typing in whatever you want for your note. So once you've got everything set up the way you want, the columns that you want, the information that you want to pull, your customization here as far as your notes and any information that you see, once it's all set up, we can take and click OK. And now we can see that I've got my door schedule attached to my cursor. I'm just going to come down here and do a zoom to fit so that I go onto my entire page here. And I'm going to put this up into the top right corner, off, away from my floor plan, and left click to place it down. Now the reason I'm putting it off in space like that is because when I go to insert it into my floor plan, that will allow me to insert just the schedule only and allow me to place that schedule wherever I want, wherever it fits within my drawing sheet. So that's the door schedule. If I just zoom in here, I'm going to do a zoom window and zoom into my door schedule. We can see how that looks. We can see our different text styles, the title text style, the heading text style, and our text style for the information that's populated as well. We can see our border is in the purpley color. Our interior lines, the division lines, are black. And if we were to show line weights, we'd be able to see that those were different line weights as well. If I zoom into the floor plan, we can see the marks. So I can see this is door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, and door number 4. Each one of those is now marked and references back to that schedule. So next I will put in a window schedule. Again, we're going to Tools, Analyze, Schedules, and in this case I want to put in a window schedule. Just like my door schedule, very similar dialog. Again, I can change my title. Here's all my information. If I go into Setup, the setup information is all the same, and I can come in now, insert my window schedule. Now that I've got everything looking like I want it to, go ahead and click OK. Now we can see that window schedule is attached to my cursor. Again, just like the door schedule, I'm going to come in and put this window schedule off into space here, and left click to place it down. If I zoom into my floor plan, again we can see now that the windows are all marked, and the marker on the windows is an octagon, whereas the doors are a circle. That is another thing that we can use to separate and specify which is a door, which is a window. Next thing I want to do is insert a member schedule. So in this room right here, the top right room here, we've got a floor inserted, and I want to call out the members of that floor. Instead of typing in all the text and calling out each individual member, what I'm going to do is use a member schedule. It will tag it just like it has the doors and windows here with a mark, and call it out in a schedule and tell me what piece is being used where. Again, just like windows and doors, I'm going to come up to Tools, Analyze, Schedules, and I've got an option here for a member schedule. So if I left click into the member schedule, we can see here we've got two different members. We've got 1 and 2. We've got an actual length column. We've got a description column, cut length column, a count column. So we've got 2 pieces of item number 1, 11 pieces of item number 2, and again a notes section. So very similar dialog to our door and windows. And we've also got the setup option. If I click into the setup, again, very similar to the window and door dialog, I can take and customize this schedule however I want. Just a couple of things that are a little bit different with the member schedule. I want to talk about actual length versus our cut length here. So the actual length, if I pull this aside, we can see 13 foot 1.5 and 9 foot 3.5. So it's taking the actual length that it wants that piece to be cut at based on what was drawn in the floor plan. If I look at the cut length, we can see that cut length is using content of purchase member length. So if we look back here to our 13 foot 1.5, our cut length is a 14 foot board. So it's looking to our purchased item lengths that are available and telling us that that 13 foot 1.5 board we're going to cut from a 14 foot board, and that's pulling that from the purchase member lengths that are available for our 2x10 spruce. So if I just drop this down here, you can see we've got different options than we had for the doors and windows. Some of them are the same, but we can see that we've got actual length, purchase member length. We've got the height times width again, width times height, purchase member length price. So different options here based on the actual member or the purchased item that would be a part of the member as well that we can choose. Again, same idea. I can come in here if I've got the cut length and I wanted to insert a separate column and call it out as the member size and use my content. Maybe I'm going to use the width times height of the actual member. I can specify that as the content, and my width, maybe I'll try 1.5 inch. Set this all up how I want. Click OK, and we can see in here that we've now got a member size column. I can see here from this preview that that member size of 1.5 inch column width is not going to be enough. It's truncating the size of the member, so I'm going to come back into my setup, click on member size here, and maybe make that 2 inches again. My description column, I saw that it was really large. Instead of 5 inches, I'm going to go to 3 inches. Click OK, and we can see how this is all updating for us and showing in our schedule dialog. Put in notes again. Type in whatever note that we want for our members, and click OK once we've got everything in there. And now we can see our member schedule. Again, do a zoom to fit. I'm going to place this off into space so that I can place it wherever I want when we go to insert it onto the sheet. Okay, so that's doors, windows, members. The next item I want to show, first off, I'm going to zoom into the floor plan here. We can see how those members are all being called out. If I go into my view filter, I can turn on my members so that I can actually see the member. So there we can see the framing now and what each of those marks is referencing. And the other thing I want to show in the view filter is the notation tab, where I can take and turn on and off my schedule marks or turn on and off my schedules, where they are separate filters within my view filter that I can toggle on and off if I want as well. So just come back in, turn members on, off, get rid of some of that clutter in there. And the next thing I want to do is insert a room region schedule. So again, tools, analyze, schedules. If I come in here, we can see that we've got a room region schedule option. And what that's going to do is look at all the different room regions and create a schedule based on those room regions. Room regions need to be inserted. The program isn't going to know what a living room is, what the finish of that living room is to create that schedule automatically. To do that, we've got the option to insert our own room regions. So we've got two different insertion options, room region by room or room region by picking points. If I choose room region by room, we'd see it brings up my room region dialog. First option I've got is to change the display name. So if I wanted to specify mudroom, I could leave this the same. In this case, I think I want to call out the living room. So I'll type that in. I've also got the option to actually use a display mark rather than the actual name. And that display mark would then reference back to the schedule. In this case, I'll leave it as display name. Then we've got the option to automatically insert different calculations. So if we take and look at a room here, the living room we're going to specify as the left side of this house that I've drawn. Got the ability to display the area, so it'll automatically calculate the area based on the room region or the outline of the room. Got the option to display the perimeter, so it will give us the length of the overall perimeter of the room. And if we wanted, it would also take and display the volume of the room based on the height that's specified here. So if that was checked, we could then have the ability to specify the height. It would basically take the area of the room, multiply it by this height, and give a volume calculation. So might be handy in some cases if you need to calculate room volume for energy reasons, insulation reasons, anything like that. You may want to display the volume. So that's how we can do that. So in this case, I'll just leave display area, display perimeter selected. The next option we've got is the additional fields. So we've got the different notes that we can add. We can add in reference notes, what the floor finish is for the room, what the ceiling finish is for the room, wall finish, base finish, and all of these are just specified manually. So the floor finish, if it was different from hardwood, we could take and backspace out hardwood and type in whatever finish we wanted to, whether it was a short form or the full length of the word. Totally up to you how you type in that floor finish. Same applies for the wall finish, ceiling finish, and base finish. So all that information we're going to be able to use. If we fill that information in, we can use it in our schedule when we go to insert our room region schedule. So once you've got all the information inputted correctly, We can come in, click OK. And now since we are inserting a room region by room, all we have to do is come inside. I'm specifying the living room in this case. Come inside the perimeter of that living room and left click, and it will automatically put that information in for us. So we can see the living room, 303.5 square feet and 72'6" for a perimeter. So it automatically puts that label in, gives us those calculations because that's what we asked for in our room region schedule. Then automatically by default, that room region dialog will come back up and allow us to fill in the next room if we wanted to. In this case, I'm just going to cancel that, and instead of inserting a room region by room, this next one, because we've got a closet in here, I want to create a room region by picking points. I don't want it to be the room because then I'm going to lose the closet space or the closet area. So again, Tools, Analyze, Schedules, and in this instance I want to do a room region by picking points. So I can click by picking points. Again, we're going to specify what we want this room to be. So let's just call it entry. Again, I want to display the area, I want to display the perimeter. Floor finish will be vinyl flooring, ceiling finish painted, and maybe we just want MDF base for this room. So I can type in those different finishes, specify the different things that I want. Click OK. Now this time, since I'm inserting this room by picking points, it wants me to actually come in and outline where I want this room to be. So as I pull away here, I select the first point, bottom left corner. Now I'm just going to click, and specify the 4 corners of my room. And right-click, finish. I don't have to go back to my original point. I can just pick the 4 points, finish. It'll automatically close it off. And we can see there now the entry, it's given our area, giving our perimeter as well. So now we've got our room regions inserted. We can now go ahead and insert a room region schedule. Analyze Schedules. Got an option here for a room region schedule. Again, very similar to the other schedule dialogues that we've seen. Got a mark, description, area, floor finish. So if I come into setup, I can take and specify all the different sizes here. So again, I'm going to take the description, make it a little bit smaller, and we've got the floor finish in here. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller as well. I'm going to make that 2 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert, maybe I want the base finish specified as well. And I'll call that out as trim. And maybe I also want to insert the wall finish. So I'm doing a complete finish schedule here. And type in what I want for the heading. Again, I can specify what's being used for the labels, for the headings, whatever I want here. So we can see all the different headings that have been created. Got mark, description, area, wall finish, trim, floor finish. I think I'm satisfied with that. I click OK. We can see the 2 different rooms. We can see the 2 different trim that's being used in the 2 different rooms, 2 types of floor finish that's being used, and the wall finish as well. Again, I've got the option to print just this schedule out. I've got the option to specify which building location is being used as well. And when I'm ready for that, I can take and click OK, do a zoom to fit, and put my room schedule down so that I can then insert that into my drawing. So now we've got everything scheduled, everything's marked and labeled. I can take and insert this now onto my worksheet. So I've done this all in model. I can now flip over to my worksheet. When I get to my worksheet, I'm going to define a smart view. So insert smart views and define smart view. So I'm going to do this in actual 5 different insertions here. I'm going to insert the floor plan. off to one side, and then I'm going to individually put in the schedules one by one and insert them individually as well so that I can move them around however I want. So first off, I'll come into my view filter, the notation tab. In this case, I just want my floor plan. I'm going to turn off the schedule. The schedules themselves, the marks I want to stay on because I want to be able to reference that floor plan and see the marks on the floor plan. Elements on terrain, I'm going to turn off my green grass. And then I can take and specify which items I'm going to show here. In this case, the room regions and the walls. Walls will show my doors. They'll also show my windows so that I'm able to see what the marks are referencing. Click OK. Do a zoom window to zoom right into my model here. We can see everything that's going to insert, and I can take and insert that and place that down onto my drawing sheet. Next, I'm going to do that again. Insert Smart Views, define Smart View. Come in this time into my view filter, and I'm going to take and display none as far as elements on location. Elements on terrain, again, I don't want to see my terrain. In this case, I just want to see my schedules only. And I'll take and click OK. So there are my 4 schedules. If I just want to start off with the door schedule, I'll take and zoom into just the door schedule. What I see in this view is what is going to insert. So this is the only thing that's going to insert is the door schedule. I can take and insert that now. Now we can see each of these. The floor plan is separate from the schedule that I can take and place my door schedule wherever I want. Again, come into Insert a Smart View, define Smart View. Next, I want to insert my window schedule. Again, I'll take and insert it individually, display none for elements on location, display none for my terrain, and turn off the schedule mark so that just my schedules are showing. Use my zoom window and zoom in to just my window schedule. Take and insert that, and there we go. And we're getting a little bit of residual here from the door schedule above and the window schedule below, so we just want to make sure if we're going to do it this way that we keep everything nice and spaced out so that we don't get the other schedules showing up. And next I'll put in the member schedule, insert Smart Views, define Smart View, come in, turn off elements on terrain, elements on location, and turn off my schedule marks, and click OK. Zoom window to my member schedule. Again, you can see that these are a little bit close together here. Maybe I'll put my member schedule and room schedule onto one here instead. Insert that. And now, like I said, each one of these is individual that I can take and move them around and put them in whatever order I want. Put my door schedule in, move my window schedule up here, whatever order we want. Of course, I could take and clean these up, move them around in my model, and clean it up so I don't get the lines there either. So that is how we handle schedules, whether it's a door schedule, window schedule, member schedule, or room schedule. We're using marks on a floor plan and a chart or a schedule off to the side of the floor plan that references that floor plan and tells us all of the different windows, doors, and members and room regions that are in our floor plan. So we are able to insert our door schedule, window schedule, member schedule. We're able to edit all of the information that went into them, whether it was the title, whether it was the headings, whether it was the actual columns that are included. So we went into our schedule setup, changed that all up. We're able to manually input information if we want as well. We're able to print individual schedules by themselves on their own. And then we're able, once we've got our schedules placed down, to bring them all into worksheet and insert them individually using our view filters to turn items on and off and bring our schedules into these views. So with that, that is the end of the formal presentation about schedules. I'd like to open up the question panel now, and if you happen to have any questions about schedules, feel free to type them into the question panel, and I will do my best to answer those questions live right now. So I don't see any questions there yet. I will just hold on, and if someone's frantically trying to type in a question, I'll just hold up here for a minute and make sure that I get it answered once it gets put in there. And while I'm waiting for that, I will again mention that after the webinar today, I will be sending out an email. In that email will be a booklet, a PDF file that covers everything we talked about today about schedules. As well, in that email, there will be a username and password to the webinar archive, so you can take and view this webinar. All these webinars are recorded and eventually put up to the website so that you can take and view the webinars on your own time. So that will be included in the email as well as that booklet. And I still don't see any questions here, so hopefully everyone's got a good understanding of schedules, how they work, how they can help your floor plan, and take advantage of that nice, easy tool that we've got set up here in Envisioneer. So with that, thank everyone for joining me today, and enjoy the rest of the day, and I hope to see you next Tuesday. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.